Fancy.
Good evening. How are you? Howdy. I'm Allan Beswick. This is the late night phone-in. I'm here till 1 o'clock, along with you and the team and anyone else that fancies joining us. You can do so on the telephone if you wish. That would be ideal, in fact. 0800 218 2255 is the number. You can talk about absolutely anything. 0800 218 2255. In the news this week, Thomas Cashman, the name we all could have done without finding out, really, but Thomas Cashman is going down for a very long time. Some might say not long enough. He's the man convicted of the murder of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell in Liverpool in August last year. Now, he didn't mean to kill Olivia Pratt-Corbell. He was attempting to kill a business rival in what police think was a drugs turf war. I know. If you are one of those people, and there are many, if you're one of those people that uses illegal cannabis, then in a microscopic way, you contributed to that little girl's death. Without drug users, there ain't no drug dealers. And without drug dealers, there ain't no turf wars. And without turf wars, Olivia Pratt-Corbell would still be alive. Shame on you. A headline in the newspaper claimed that the Mediterranean diet lowers the risk of a heart attack, which it may do. Lowers the risk of a stroke, which it may do. And lowers the risk of death, which it most certainly doesn't. Your chance of death stays at 100%. Whatever you eat, drink, or do. It's 100%. We're all going. Get used to it. The government is going to save the world, which is kind of them. It's going to save us from the dreaded global warming. And they're going to do it with a variety of measures, which includes something called carbon capture. They're going to catch the carbon and then store it underground. Now, you know me, I like to help out when I can. I did my bit this morning. I went out and buried all my pencils in the garden. Collectively, energy firms forced 94,000 prepayment meter installations last year on people that didn't want them, otherwise there wouldn't have been a need to force them. Say what you like about the privatisation of public services, it puts them malingerers in their place, does it not? And it gives the wicked bean counters a reason for being rich, and some pride as well, it would seem. And the papers carried a story this week about a man who was attacked and killed by somebody wielding a horseshoe. You can't get any more unlucky than that, really, can you? Killed with an horseshoe. I mean, come on. And then Elon Musk, yeah, that one, and one of the blokes who invented Microsoft, but not Bill Gates, the other one, yeah, has called for a halt on the development of artificial intelligence. You probably read it. They're worried that robots are getting too clever and might take over many of our jobs. Late night phone-in presenters should be okay. Let's face it, no self-respecting robot would stoop so low. I think that's the word. Could be wrong. Doesn't matter. 0800 218 2255. We're here till 1. You're welcome to join us. Just pick up your phone, have your say, talk about anything. We don't mind. How do Lindsay?
Hello. Good evening. You know when couples get married, why is it always the woman who takes the man's name?
It isn't always, but it is tradition.
The majority of it is always, isn't it?
Absolutely. Always isn't, no, you can't have a majority and always. Always is all of it. But yeah, the vast majority of times, more and more people who bother to get married keep their own names now. But yeah, traditionally, the woman took the man's name.
And it's the women that wear, not a lot of men wear wedding rings.
Well, it's a matter of personal choice of individuals, yeah. I wear one.
Should be a matter of choice for the woman as well.
Well, it is a matter of choice for the woman. There's no legal requirement that a woman wears a wedding ring.
There's just one more question I wanted to ask you before you crack on. Who invented swear words?
Nobody knows. Who invented any words? Nobody knows.
Yeah. All right. Okay, that's all I wanted to ask you.
Right.
Thanks for your help.
Well, you asked.
Thank you.
I hope you're satisfied with the replies. Good night. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Ray.
Hi, Allan.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about this the mass shooting in America in Nashville. I don't know what your thoughts on that one. On that subject.
Well, what are yours? I mean, you said you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I don't think America is going to have gun control on this, especially like someone with mental illness. You know, I do believe that people with mental illness should not be having access to guns. I think it should be, controlled. Like farmers should have access to it.
Well, in America, I mean, it's different laws in every state, but people who have mental health conditions are not supposed to have guns, but because guns are so prevalent, and when you can buy them in supermarkets, which is rather bizarre, it's hard to control, isn't it?
It is, and it is tragic what has happened to those innocent people in school.
Absolutely. Every time there's a massacre, it's incomprehensible to anybody but an American, I would imagine.
I don't believe. Well, I don't think we're as bad as America.
Well, in that respect, most certainly we are not.
We had that problem in UK with the Dunblane one, and that had to put an end to that one. So the Britain said we've got to put an end to it since that Dunblane massacre.
Yeah, I mean, we well, you can still get firearms in this country. Dunblane, they brought in legislation that prevented the purchase and the legal owning of high-powered rifles. I'm not sure whether Dunblane actually did away with the pistols, but those two have been done away with. I'm not sure whether that was a consequence of Dunblane, but certainly incidents in this country have led to the further restriction of firearm possession. Yeah,
I always believe that people should talk about it. Like if someone's feeling stressed I've always believed people should talk rather than resort to violence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. People should talk. We don't talk enough in this country and many others. We just seem to live our isolated lives. And in America, it would appear to be even worse. I mean, I say even worse. The proportion of people in America who would do such a thing is probably not much different than elsewhere in the world. The difference is that if you wanted to do that in this country, you would have some difficulty because you can't get access to the kind of weapons that are being used, whereas in America you can. I mean, I've been in supermarkets in the United States, these hypermarkets, out-of-town places, and they have a whole gun department. It's extraordinary.
But I always say, if someone gives you aggravation, because I believe this person with mental illness has gone on a shooting spree because someone might have given will hear aggravation, should I say. I always say, if someone's giving you aggravation, you should never resort to violence. You should always ignore it, because you're always going to get someone who's going to be horrible. There's nothing you can do.
Well, yeah, but I mean, part of the problem of those people who are unable to do exactly what you just suggested is that there's nowhere for them to go. I'm not in any way diminishing the badness of what they've done, but you know, even in this country, there aren't the facilities for people who are hell-bent on doing harm. And it's just one of the sort of, you might call it a first world problem.
I think the system needs to be more involved, like helping people.
Without a doubt. But in this country, that would mean more facilities via the National Health Service in general principle, and that would mean more taxation, and nobody's up for that. And in the United States, the medicine is privatised anyway. They don't have a free health service, so even if the facilities were there, most people probably wouldn't be able to afford them.
But I always say, Allan, like, life is hard, isn't it? Unfortunately, isn't it? But we have to live through it, haven't we? We have to embrace it.
We have to try. It's, I mean, life has its difficulties, without a doubt. I wouldn't go so far as to say life is hard, but for some people who are unable to accommodate and absorb the things that life throws at it, then they are in difficulty. There is insufficient help. The waiting list for what are called talking therapies is enormous and not shrinking.
It's unfortunate. I wonder why that is. Do you reckon it's because, like, for this country in Britain, because the Tories have, cut back things like that?
Well, that's kind of part of political stuff, which is not my province, but certainly if you reduce the amount of money or don't increase the amount of money in the health service in accordance with the increase in prices and everything else, then yes, there will be a shortage. But the great problem is the government turns over from taxation about £650 billion a year. And quite frankly, if they put every penny of that in the National Health Service, there'd still be waiting lists. There'd still be people who couldn't get treated because the National Health Service it's basically a money swallower. That's not to say it shouldn't be, but it is.
I mean, there are people out there who with mental illness are still waiting to see a psychologist, and sometimes they have to wait like 9 months, unfortunately, and that is wrong.
Yep. It's very difficult. The mental health services have been what are described as the Cinderella of the National Health Service for a very, very long time, and there's not much sign of it changing.
That's unfortunate, Allan. And
yeah. I mean, to put it in its starkest and less intelligent description, if you've got to spend money on people who, if you don't give them treatment right now, they'll die a slow and agonising death, or tell them they're going to have to die because there's a bloke over there who doesn't feel very well. He's got an headache and he's feeling a bit sad. I trivialise it, but that's the sort of choices that have to be made.
I think if Labour gets in power, maybe there might be some differences. I don't know.
There'll be differences, that's for sure. Will there be improvements? Who knows? They will have the same bills that every other government's had, but we don't know. It'll be a long time, over a year, before we find out who wins the next general election. But good to talk to you, Ray. How do George?
Hello, Allan. I'd like to speak about Paulo Grady. What a gentleman that man! What a gentleman that man was. He lived round the corner from me in Birkenhead, and what a gentleman. He's fit 21 at all, and the talent he had for him, Lily Savage. I thought he was absolutely marvellous.
I don't know anyone would disagree with you. Everyone that met him, knew him, passed him in the street and watched him on the telly said he was a cracking bloke. Fortunately, I never met him, but yeah, everybody says he was a great bloke.
He was. He was fantastic. And he was very good to animals as well.
Yeah, he was kind to animals. He loved dogs. Dogs loved him as well, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I like cats, Alan. I'm a cat man, me.
Indeed. There's a few of us still left, but you know,
Yeah.
there was a woman. All right, you have done so, and that's great. No problem at all, George. Good to talk to you. Have a good night. How do Margaret?
How do Allan? Hello. I've come on to talk about how weird the human brain is. But I don't know. I'll just... maybe it's more accurate to say how weird my brain is. I'll speak for myself. Something happened yesterday which was extremely strange to me. I'd been watching the TV and Elkie Brooks was on BBC 4, one of her concerts. I think it dates back to 1977. So I thought I'll record that because I think she's fantastic. I think she's totally brilliant. I saw her twice in the 80s or 90s, which was it? But anyway, I saw her twice in Liverpool, at the Liverpool Empire. Unbelievable. I mean, she's the best singer, one of the best singers we've ever produced, male or female, in my opinion. But anyway, to get to the point. So I recorded the show and I was just going to bed. It was about 10 o'clock. And I just caught the end of the show, which was still recording. And her last number was Pearl's Singer. You might remember it.
I do.
Yeah, brilliant. It was really good, so I thought, I'll watch it out before I go to bed, you know, because it was being recorded anyway. I could enjoy it at a later date. So she sang it differently than I've seen her before, because she was kind of twee to start off with, and then she went for it, as only Elkie Brooks can. She blew the roof off the theatre, you know. But anyway, I'll get to the point. So that was that. I just thought, I'll enjoy that at a later date. Went to bed as usual. Woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, as you have to when you get to a certain age sometimes during the night. And I thought this was so weird because I haven't thought of these people for donkeys. Never, I don't think. But I woke up and on the way to the bathroom, what was going through my head was not Pearl's a singer, but Earl's a winger. And I'd remembered that it was the Barron Knights who did a spoof on the song. I think you're old enough to remember the Barron Knights.
Oh, yes, I remember them well. They were great fun.
They were great fun, but where did that come? That's what I say, what's wrong with my brain? That must have come from the basement of my brain. Where did that come from? Yeah, that's being put in the loft for donkey's years. I've not thought of the Barron Knights. Yeah, you know, it's either the basement or the loft where you put the rubbish. I don't know what part of my brain, it was either the basement or the loft. But there I'm walking off to the bathroom singing, El's a winger. Remember, it was about... Do you think I need to see a psychiatrist? Don't answer.
No, I think you're all right. I think the psychiatrist would say, I have exactly the same problem. We all do.
But weren't they great?
The Barrett Nights were brilliant.
Do you remember the one about... Elkie Brooks too, just fantastic. Earl's a winger, it's all about football. But Earl's a winger, for goodness sake. But I remember another one, I think it was the Barron Knights. It was to the tune of the Red Flag. We're out of work. All this came back to me in the middle of the night. I am crazy, I'll admit it. We're out of work and on the dole, so stick the red flag up.
We all know that one.
Anyway.
I don't think that was one of theirs, actually. But
wasn't it?
I think that... No, I don't think so. but they could so easily have done it.
Yes, in the middle of the night, it all came back to me. But I've got to get Earl's a Winger up on YouTube if I can find it. Because I'll go even more crazy if I don't hear it again. But it had to be 68 or something. What? When? Can't remember.
It's got to be around there. It might have been later than that, because I don't know whether Elkie Brooks was
Elkie Brooks,
60s.
Yeah, no, she was... In the 60s, she was with Vinegar Joe, with Robert Palmer, if memory serves me.
Yeah, but I was just saying, I don't think she was, if you like, Elkie Brooks, the single performer. Well, yeah, they were Balad Nights, 1959 onwards.
Yeah, I knew they went back a bit. Elkie was just a front woman. Just. I mean, she was as good as Freddie Mercury, and he was a fabulous front man. One of the best, but she was just... And I think it's because she was a woman, here I go again, but I think it was because she was a woman, she didn't get the credit that she actually deserved. She was an unbelievable front person, I suppose. The only way I can think of it. It's unbelievable. I mean, as I say, I saw her on the Empire, and she just was captivating. She got you. She just got you.
She had a number one hit, you'll recall. She had a number one hit, you'll remember, with a song called not Pearls of Singing, I forgot which one. No, Lilac Wine. It was just... Yeah, I might play that in a minute. But no, she had a hit. Oh, Fool If You Think It's Over.
Oh yeah, I remember it very well.
The guy that wrote it, Chris Rea, and I interviewed him a long time ago when that had been in the charts and been a number one, and he sings it, of course, as well on his albums and things. And I asked him about it, and he said, "There's nothing more embarrassing than have somebody else make a number one, and you make more money from the song that she sang than I did from when I sang it," which was quite funny. Yeah. Well, that's Chris Rea. Yeah. Laughing all the way to the bank, I guess.
Yeah, but I know you don't like to give your opinion. Well, sometimes you do, obviously, and very strongly. But don't you think she didn't get the credit that she deserved?
I don't know. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, she did very, very well. You know, she used to... I mean, in those days, they didn't have the great sort of palaces of entertainment that they have now, the arenas. But she filled theatres up and down the land, and she's made a good living. Made a good living out of it. So, you know, she had a number one. Great singer.
I won't keep you... Absolutely. I won't keep you forever, but I always remember it going way back with Vinegar Joe. Her and Robert Palmer were the two front people. And she sang a song called... Honky Woman. I've never forgotten that one. Oh, she did it. And she didn't give a hoot. I could use a different word there, but she really didn't. She got up there to entertain. She didn't care what anyone thought of her. She just entertained. But when she sang ballads, she was captivating. It's the only word I can use. She just took... Yeah, honestly, I'm not trying to be melodramatic.
No, she was brilliant. She's brilliant.
She was captivating with those ballads. Lilac Wine was a little bit cheesy, however, she took the cheese off it in a way, if I'm making sense. And, well, she was brilliant, but so were the Barron Knights.
Good to hear from you, Margaret. This will upset you, or upset her. She's 78 now. Elkie Brooks.
But you know
78, good Lord.
I bet she can still belt them out. She's
might be able
the type of person... Oh, she's the type of woman that would never give up. She just keeps going, that one. She's probably belting them out in the old people's home. I doubt if she's in one, by the way, but you know
I don't think she is, no.
No, I doubt it very
Good to hear from you. Okay. Have a good night, Margaret. Elkie Brooks, fantastic singer. Her hobby in her younger day, or her sort of, what should we call it, her fun, the thing she liked to do most was riding roller coasters. She loved roller coasters. I've no idea why. I don't even know how I know that. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can, just because it's been mentioned and it's a cracking song anyway. We're going to play it. Lilac Wine, Elkie Brooks. Talk to Balad. If you sang that, you'd have to have a sit down after, wouldn't you? Good heavens. Elkie Brooks, Lilac Wine. I'll do Balad.
Hello, Mr. Beswick. Hold on. Good evening. I'd like to talk about a bit about the world economy and economics. What it is about 2008 when there was almost a global economic meltdown. Well, we thought it's behind us, but it looks as if the same things have finally come full circle again, and it's going to take down the system again. Well, funny enough, when America owes its debt, the American country itself owes itself in its own currency. But when other countries own a debt, they own that debt in US dollars. So they've now got to go and find American dollars in order to pay off the debt, because the debt cannot be paid off in the local currency. And certain bankers at the time, like I'm going to name them, what's it called?
We don't need to name them. Certain banks at the time will do for me.
Well, the bankers have said, certain bankers have said, look, if I control the currency of a country, I don't care who runs that currency, I control it, or we, the bankers, control it. And that's what they've been doing for quite a long time. I had a funny one day, I'm not going to name the bank. I went to my bank one time and I said, oh, you know what, I've got this overdraft facility, and it just seems to be going up and up and up. What can you tell me about it? And he just looked at it. The manager of that branch, he just looked at it and said, come over here. Went to the till, he told the lady, said, just put this code in, blah, 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 blah. There you are, it's all gone. Just like that, I said, wait a minute, you could do that. I said, yeah, we do all the time. So basically, when somebody owes a debt, and that debt is owed as a compound interest debt, you've paid it off quite some time ago, but they still say, oh, you're servicing your debt, and you're probably paying more money than you borrowed before, and it's going to go up if they let it go on. Then sometimes they look at it and say, oh, well, he's paid a lot of money, we let him go now. That's all they do. And the money we got is what they call it fiat money. Basically, the money's not backed to most countries. There are only 5 countries in the world that their money is backed by something, and they want them to be in this fiat currency shenanigans, so that everybody will be there. Now, the new one they said they want to do is this. They want to bring in e-currencies, because e-currencies will be easy to control by most governments, and the people won't have any control. Now,
indeed, I think I'm writing saying that bankers have rolled back the idea of having e-currencies recently because of the way the e-currencies have gone.
Probably they have, because the Nigerian government would try it, and the people just said we won't have it, we won't touch it, and they had to roll back on it big time. So a lot of people are finding out that it's not going to go down the way they want it to go down, because in America they said the top banks were going to own all the banks now. So really, your local bank in your local town.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit lost. You just said there's something banks are going to own all the banks. What do you mean?
Yeah, the big banks in America, they are going to take over the smaller banks. So a small bank in a small town in America will be owned by a bigger bank. Will be owned by a bigger bank. There'll be a subsidiary to the bigger banks. So so it's like consolidation, if I got that right. So these banks,
but that's exactly the same process as supermarkets and newsagents and the Lord knows what else.
Yeah, no. So basically,
you're talking about retail banking.
Yeah. That's what I can do. Yeah, I got a magazine there, and basically the story was written in. Then I'm saying, hang on, who's going to sign up on this? Can they do it? Because the lady in America, the financial secretary, that John Lennon, she was saying, well, we want to do it. We've been trying to do it for years, and we just don't know who's going to sign up on it. I said, wait a minute. You want to do it. You want to sign up, and you don't know who's going to do it. Are you guys insane or something? Of course you know who's going to do it. The bank is going to tell you to do it, and you're going to do it. So that's my little story for today.
Well, thank you for it. I'll do Tony.
Hi, Alan. You okay?
Very well, thank you.
You're talking Elkie broke for that song.
Hmm.
Do you know her real name?
Elaine Bookbinder.
Yeah. So she had a club in Salford, I think. Did she have her own club?
She might have done. Like, she's certainly from Salford.
Yeah, for Beswicks. Yeah, I think she had her own club. But I'm a friend of a bloke that used to look after her. For a minder. Wherever she went, he was by her side.
That's kind of what minders do, isn't it, really? It'd be a fat lot of use if they didn't.
But yeah, but he was also Foo Lamar's minder. Yeah. But I thought it was, did you say Elaine Bookbinder? I thought it was Elisa Bookbinder. I might be wrong. Does she still live in Salford, or don't you know?
I don't know whether she still lives in Salford.
Or Beswicks, if you like.
Well, I don't know where she lives now. I've no idea. Yeah. The club, it was, I've forgotten the name again now. Came to me in the flash then, and I've forgotten it.
That's what
I don't remember what it was called. What was the club? Wait, can you remember what it was called?
No, I don't.
No, I can't now.
It comes in flashback.
I used to know that, but I don't anymore. I have to look it up now.
Somebody will ring you in.
Yeah, that'll be easier, than me trying to find it on the internet. I'll be looking for days and days. But yeah, she did. She owned a club. And she's been around a long time. She used to sing with Humphrey Lyttelton. You remember Humphrey Lyttelton?
No, I know the name. I don't know what he did.
Yeah, well, he's better known, which is a shame, really, because he was a great jazz player. But he was the chairman of I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue on Radio 4 for about 40 years. And she used to sing in his band years and years ago.
Well, the first I heard of it was that Pearl's a Singer. I think that was about 1976. That's the first I heard of it. I couldn't believe that, but it was.
Cracking song.
Yeah, brilliant. And it went better from there.
I just looked it up. The La Ronde.
That what?
Was La Ronde.
Sorry? Oh, right.
Laronde. La Ronde. Apparently, I didn't know. I had to look it up eventually, and I didn't know where it was anyway, but this tells me it was on Cheetham Hill Road in Manchester. So there we are.
There you go. You learn something every day.
You do if you're like me and don't know much. Good to talk to you, Tony. How do Ted?
All right, Alan, just to say, you know which month most babies are born?
No, I don't.
From July to October, most babies are born around the world.
It's all that going to bed early in the winter.
Yeah, like nature, like the birds and the bees and all that, when they go to sleep and all that. Or the birds don't lay eggs until the spring or summer. It's only like,
Well, there's a reason for it, of course. The animal kingdom, as we call it, doesn't have the facility that we have, we humans, and that is to obtain food year round. So the animals have a life, most of them have a life cycle, so that when the chicks are born and need a lot of food to develop, there's food about. So there would be little point in having your eggs hatch in December, because there's no food to feed the chicks, they'd die. So it's all to do with the availability of food. But we've got past that now over the years for farming and the like.
Well, like trees, Alan, like that in the winter they go to sleep, don't they? You could say.
Some do. The deciduous tree does, but others don't.
Or like you could say they die and then come back to life again, couldn't you?
Well, you could, but you'd be wrong. They don't die. They're still alive.
Well, there's trees in this world, Alan, that have lived billions of years. The giant tree.
Well, the oldest recorded tree, I think, is 2,000 years, but I could be wrong. But billions of years, I suspect, is not the case.
Well, look at the giant trees in Canada.
Yeah, they're very, very tall and very. Yeah, some of them are 100 years old, but not millions of years.
Hundreds of years old, yeah.
Well, hundreds of years, yes, quite probably, but not millions.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Well, that's their life cycle. They don't move about in the same way that we do, although apparently some trees do walk very slowly.
Do you reckon that could happen to humans, like live as long as trees, like?
I mean, the trouble with the question could, the answer has to be yes, it could. Is it likely? Probably unlikely within what we would describe as a human being. Because of all our movement, we wear our bits out. You know, most people over the age of 70, not including me, thank heavens, but most people over the age of 70 have got bits dropping off them. They might have to have replacement knees or replacement hips, or their hearts being stuffed full of medicines to keep it beating. So we wear out because we are...
You know, psychiatry, Alan.
Mm.
The three doctors were there, and I was there. Now, Alan, do you believe in reincarnation?
No.
No. Well, these three doctors, the doctor said to me something happened to Rainbow and all that and whatever. The doctor said to me, two female doctors and a male doctor. The male doctor said, "What do you believe in?" I said, "Reincarnation." He said, "We do and all."
Fair enough.
Psychiatry doctor.
Mm.
Thanks, Alan.
Right, well, it's my pleasure. Doctors are as likely to believe in stupid things as anybody else. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. And that thing about us wearing out, I can't remember which one it was, but one of those great thinkers said that death is the price we humans pay for sex, and all the other species as well. Because without the need to have our genes carry on in another part of us, viz. A child or a chick or a cub or what have you, but without that, we have no need to procreate, because our genes will still be with us, because we will live forever. So death is the price we pay for sex. Whether it's worth it or not, only you can decide. How do, Walter?
Hello, Alan. Great show again. Hope you're well.
Thank you. I am.
I'm finding it really difficult, Alan. I don't know whether you or your listeners might agree, but I have an issue with watching like Match of the Day. You know, these men playing football who are in like £1 million a week plus. And they go down on the field and they go, "Oh, I broke my toenail." Yeah? Now you watch the women's game, yeah? They go down, they jump back up. Yeah? And they're not on nowhere near £1 million a week. But them women are absolutely fantastic.
Well, yeah. They're pretty good.
Them women are absolutely brilliant playing football, yeah? I'd love to see a women's team play a man's team, yeah?
Well, the current thinking, I would suspect, if a woman's team played a man's team, so the best, depends who plays who, but the best woman's team played the best man's team, I think most people would put their money on the men's team.
Well, I put my money on, like, how many women go down and say they broke their fingernail, and how many men go down and say, oh, my ponytail's loose. I'll let you go. It's just my opinion, Alan.
I don't think...
Anyway,
I don't...
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Just for the record, I know very little about football, and I'm prepared for anyone to come on and correct me, because I don't know the rules even. But as far as I'm aware, who wins the game isn't based on how many times the players fall over. I mean, I could be wrong. I could so easily be wrong. Football is not my game, but I seem to remember from my school days when I played, I mean, they made me play in goal because it involved jumping about and bumping into people rather than actually having any skills. And even then, I became fairly sure. I mean, I wouldn't put money on it, but I became fairly sure that the outcome of the game, the result, was based on the number of times one team kicked the ball into that net that I was trying to guard as a goalkeeper. And I don't think anyone actually kept score of how many people fell over. So what bearing that had on the results, I'm afraid I think minimum, if any at all. Anyway, there you are. But it's like that. It's that old thing, isn't it? They used to say, would Cassius Clay, as he was then called, would Cassius Clay have beaten Joe Louis? Well, the answer's probably yes. It depends on whose rules they played it under. You know, the rules of boxing are fairly basic, but the rules that applied in Joe Louis' day were slightly different than the rules that applied in Muhammad Ali / Cassius Clay's day. So, who is the greatest? Well, according to Muhammad Ali, he was. But who would win in the battle of the two of them? I don't know. It is almost certainly the case that I think the best man's team, so the team that wins the Super League, is it called that? Anyway, wins the first division. That's what I remember it as. the team that wins that, the Premiership or whatever it's called, against the women's team that wins their equivalent. I think it's probably the case that the men's team would win. But I must admit, I almost enjoy watching women's football, and I rarely enjoy watching men's football because it does seem a bit pointless, really. But what do I know? 0800 218 2255. How do Roy?
Hello, me arm, mate. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing awfully well, thank you.
I'm a part of a walking group now, mate.
Okay.
I'm going to trips like Italy now and that. I'm going to go on the train soon. I'm going on a trip, so on the train and the bus, mate, yeah.
Yeah.
And we go on there loads of walks, mate, you know what I mean, lad, yeah? How are you, Alan, mate? Anyway, I listen to you every Saturday night, mate. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a good show, mate, as well.
Right.
I'm a part of a walk.
When are you going to Llandudno?
I've already been, mate.
Oh, you've been? All right.
Yeah, it was on the trip, yeah.
Did you do any walking around Llandudno? Did you go up the Great Orme and all that? That's a hell of a slog.
Yeah, I walked up there, mate, yeah. Yeah, and I've seen all the sea lions, mate.
Yeah. They're about. Yeah. You see a lot of them.
Yeah.
You see more sea lions, as you called them, but seals. But you see more of them on the Little Orme rather than the Great Orme. But you do see them on the Great Orme as well. Not on the Orme, actually, in the water. But they're fabulous.
Yeah. mate. The scenes, they were amazing, mate, yeah. The scenes, fabulous. Yeah. We've got a walking group in Ace as well.
Brilliant.
And I go to the Daddy Club on a Monday, mate.
What do you do there? What's that? What club is
it's like a disco, like a disco. You can sing and mix with people, mate. Yeah.
Brilliant. I can't sing for toffee, but good to hear from you, Roy.
I believe you're talking to Pete Price, is it the other night, mate, yeah?
Yeah, we did, on Sunday, yeah. He came on to tell us that he wasn't dead.
I tell him, mate, I was asking about him. I haven't heard from him for a while.
Right, well, if I speak to him again, I will certainly tell him. But Roy, good to hear from you. Have a good night, mate. How do, Mike?
I hope you don't mind me saying so, because I'm not exactly a professor of linguistics, but your use of prescient was perfectly admirable. What I wanted to take you on to rather harks back to our many conversations and shared interest in words and their usage. What I want to take you on to is this. You will be familiar with the word latent, meaning rather hidden. But a short time ago, I was rather taken aback by one of my kind helpers who helps me with certain mini-disc problems that I come up with from time to time. And I said to him, when do you think you'll be able to do the job for me? And he said, well, there usually is some latency about these things. Oh, I don't know what he means. I was ashamed to say. Do you know that this different meaning of the word latent?
No, not off the top of my head, but it's perfectly possible. I mean, the meaning of words changes as we progress.
Yeah, sure. But that seems way, way different from something that is hidden, doesn't it, from the traditional meaning of latent?
Well, I'm not sure that latent does mean hidden. I mean, in physics, latent heat is, you can't see heat anyway, so I suppose it's hidden in that respect. But latent heat, when a thing is changing state, it requires more heat to do so, but when it gets that extra heat, it doesn't increase the temperature, as it were. So water turns into steam at 100 degrees centigrade, but you have to keep heating it, otherwise it won't change. I'm probably not going to... Jerry Reese, my physics teacher, is probably turning in his grave as we speak. But water evaporates, and that too is done by various processes, which includes things that you can't see but are there, but lying inactive and dormant, rather than just invisible.
Have you got, indeed, are you willing to use, if so, your Collins Plus English Dictionary to have a quick look at latent?
It's, well, I don't need to. That's what it means. It's existent.
Well, I know, but I'm just curious
hidden
about
or dormant. Well, it's both. It's hidden, existing, and hidden, or dormant. So it's in a dormant form. So it's there, but it's not doing anything. So,
but this other meaning, the way Tim used it, seems miles away, from totally unrelated. So I've been puzzled by this.
Well,
never mind.
We all use words inaccurately frequently. I know I do.
Well, I don't think this boffin would have done so. But anyway, I'll look into it before I try and speak to you tomorrow. When what's of interest, by one of my questions that came up this week, with the change that has taken place in Scotland, do you think that independence has become a lesser prospect than it was during the reign of Mrs. Sturgeon?
Well, that's an interesting question, because it wasn't going to happen in the foreseeable future, because Scotland can't have a referendum to judge whether to bring it about or not without permission of Her Majesty's government, and Her Majesty's government presently is saying, no, you've had a referendum, you're not having another. So how far away it is not in control of Scotland. Whether it is more desirable in Scotland than it was in Nicola Sturgeon's day or not is, well, we won't know until there's some kind of poll. But all the pundits are suggesting that it's further away. But whether it is or not, because it wasn't there anyway.
No, my impression, my feeling is that it has receded further. There are two aspects. I wonder if you agree. There are two aspects. One, who is the leader of the band, the new leader of the band, and how prominent will he be? The other is the actual people who would vote, and whether they're like Canny Scott saying, "Oh, it's not a safe thing to do," sort of thing.
Well, there will be those Scots who think it's absolutely right and proper, and there'll be those Scots who think, no, we're better off where we are. And some people will make that decision on an economic and a statistical basis, if you like, and others will make it on a straightforward principle. They want to be independent. They want their nation to be independent. There's no predicting it at all.
No. Oh, yeah. So you're not prepared to voice a view beyond that?
I don't have one. I'm not Scottish, okay. And I'm not engrossed in Scottish politics. But the idea of it being nearer or further is irrelevant, because the opportunity to consider that, the opportunity to present that as an option to the Scottish people, isn't in the hands of the Scots. It's in the hands of the United Kingdom government, and they are not going to let it happen.
Why do you think it is that there's always, or long since, been a move for this in Scotland, but not with anything like the same strength in Wales?
Well, it did exist in Wales, and without wanting to hark back to it too much, we all remember the burning of holiday cottages of the of the Welsh group, terrorist group you might call them. There doesn't seem to be the same desire, but Wales is in a slightly different position than Scotland, in that it's hard to see how Wales these days could be self-sufficient, because it's coal mining, which is their principal income at the time, is no longer relevant. They could, and maybe will, if they decide to go into a lot more green energy, they may get some marketable stuff again. Water, of course, is extremely marketable for Wales, as it is in Scotland, but Scotland has a very, very substantial and well-respected financial centre in Edinburgh, so they have a better opportunity to survive, as it were, as an independent country than would Wales.
Listen, thank you ever so much for chatting. I'll go back to supper now, I think.
Enjoy it. Have a good supper. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say, talk about absolutely anything. You can ask me questions if you like, but I'm not very good at the answers, as you've no doubt already noticed. But 0800 218 2255. Talk about anything you wish, rather bizarrely. Quick shuff to you what's going on in the news, or what's gone on in the news, and we'll be on the newspapers tomorrow. Sunday, of course, always cracking for newspapers. I love them, but then I'm just an odd person in that respect these days. There was a time when newspapers were the be-all and end-all, but regrettably that is no longer the case. Newspapers are losing circulation, and many of them are doing their best to turn to the internet and sell their newspapers via the internet, and eventually that's what will happen. But it will be, how would we describe it? It'll be less binding. I don't know. Anyway, there you are. Quick shufty anyway. The Mail on Sunday reckons that the vegan mob, a vegan mob, not the vegan mob, the undercover Mail on Sunday team exposes a plan by up to 100 animal rebellion activists to storm Aintree and then glue themselves together on the course. If they get it in a straight line, at right angles to the course, it'd just be like another jump, wouldn't it? So that'd be all right. But if they do it lengthways, it's going to be a bit of a beggar. But the vegan mob plots to sabotage the Grand National. Might I point out to the vegans that, quite frankly, they don't eat the horses. Sunday People, Tories blow £8 million on King Charles pictures. Shameful waste of money during a cost of living crisis, it says. The Sunday Times, the new nightmare for patients as strikes return. Yeah, it is a nightmare for patients. There's no getting around that. The question then is, who do you blame for that nightmare? Do you blame the unions? Do you blame the workers who are choosing to withdraw their labour, as is their right? Or do you blame the government and the health service that won't give them what they believe they're entitled to? I've no idea. I know what a woman is, insists Starmer. That's good. I mean, he's a barrister for years. He must have learned something. In the swing state USA, Trump's heartline voters deliver a stormy verdict. Get it? Stormy? No? OK. The Observer Care Homes crisis. Children sent hundreds of miles away. There just aren't enough places, so children are going hundreds of miles away from their families, and their families are unable then to see them. And surely the objective of care homes is to get the children and the families into a state where they could once again be reunited, because it doesn't matter how good the care home is. It doesn't matter how good the foster parents are. Decent parents, decent blood parents, is without a doubt the best option. Obviously, not all people are able to be decent parents, but if we could work with them and train them and help them, then perhaps they could become better parents, which has got to be good, hasn't it? Anyway, there you are. Shortage of care home spaces means that kids are being deported miles away from home, hundreds of miles. 0800 218 2255. How do James?
Hello. I thought I'd say a bit more about Elkie Brooks. As you said correctly, her real name is Elaine Bookbinder, but her brother was Anthony Bookbinder, and he became... he changed his name to Mansfield, and he was the drummer with the Dakotas, if you remember. So he was Tony Mansfield of the
Billy
Dakotas.
J. Kramer.
Backing Billy J. Kramer, and of course they had a number of big hits, and of course Billy J. Kramer's still alive as well. He's one of the last survivors of that era of the 1960s beat groups. But I think Tony Mansfield.
Well, there's a few others about. There's a few others about. I mean, Paul McCartney springs to mind. Ringo's.
Well, yes, but
all of the Rolling. Well, quite a lot of the Rolling Stones. A good few of them are dead. But
yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, but Elkie Brooks, she is still performing, and she performed in Burnley at the Mechanics about 3 years ago, and I was told she was in extremely good form then as well.
Wow.
But when she was with Vinegar Joe, she was really more of a blues rocker type of vocalist, and she appeared on the Old Grey Whistle Test in 1972 with the group, and a member of that group was Peter Gage, who played guitar, and Elkie Brooks married her, and she was married to him for a few years before marrying somebody else, and of course Vinegar Joe, Robert Palmer, was the lead singer, but Elkie Brooks, her success as a soloist was partly down to Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, who were producers. Do you remember those two?
I do. It wrote brilliant producers. Brilliant.
Yes. By that time, in the mid-70s, they were veteran producers, but of course, going way back to the late 50s, they were the people responsible for the coasters, amongst other people, and so they wrote songs like Yakety Yak, Poison Ivy.
Don't come back.
That's right. So they're almost like sort of novelty songs, those, but very cleverly written. And Lieber actually produced No More the Fool. She did No More the Fool and Fool If You Think It's Over, but two big hits with the word fool in them. But neither of them went to number one. You said that the Chris Rea one, Fool If You Think It's Over, went to number one, but it didn't do. But her album Pearls, which was more or less Elkie Brooks's greatest hits, that went to number 2 in the chart. What was I going to say? Don't Cry Out Loud. That was an interesting one by Elkie Brooks, and that was partly written by. That was partly written by Carol Bayer Sager, who at that time was Burt Bacharach's wife, and she herself had a big hit with You're Moving Out Today in 1977, if you remember that one.
I do.
That was very cleverly written. She was a lyricist, and so she replaced Hal David as Burt Bacharach's lyricist, as well as marrying Burt Bacharach, Lilac Wine, that was actually in the charts this time in 1978, and it is a really tremendous song, a tremendous performance by her as well, and that was produced by Mike Batt, more usually associated with the Wombles, but he was also associated with some very good ballads. He wrote The Winter's Tale by David Essex, and as I say, he was more associated with serious songs rather than the Wombles, although that's the thing that he's perhaps most remembered for now. And he did a really good song by himself called Railway Hotel, which wasn't a hit. His biggest hit solo was Summertime City, which was the theme tune for Seaside Special, if you remember that on television in the mid-70s. And that was more or less sort of variety performances done at seaside towns with sort of cabaret singers, but on one of the first ones, ABBA performed in a very rare live performance in Britain on television, and that was at the time that they had SOS out in 1976, so yes, I thought I'd mention as well that you mentioned the Beatles there and Paul McCartney. The current number one, Ed Sheeran, has just gone to number one with his 14th number one, and that makes him the performer with the third highest number of number ones in this country, and the second highest are the Beatles. They had 18 of them. Ed Sheeran has got 14. He's got a new album coming out soon as well, and by the end of this year he could have actually even overtaken the Beatles for number ones, because he's extremely popular.
Well, indeed he is, but of course getting a number one these days is, I won't say it's easier, but the numbers involved are different.
That's right.
And the way you get your number one now, it's not on record sales, is it? It's on track sales.
Yes, and he is, to my mind, a bit overrated anyway. But
That's a judgment call, isn't it, that? I mean, he may well be overrated, but he's overrated by millions and millions of people.
Yes, and of course it's a different time to the 60s, where the Beatles had more competition maybe in the 60s for number ones. In fact, I'm sure they did, in fact, whereas Ed Sheeran now is one of not that many people that would automatically go to number one. Miley Cyrus and Flowers has just come off the number one spot, and that was number one for 10 weeks, and that equals the record for a female singer, which is still held by "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston, and the one that was number one for 9 weeks, and that's held that record for the number one by a female singer for years, was "Secret Love" by Doris Day, and that went back to 1954, and eventually Whitney Houston broke that record.
Well, there you go. Doris Day had a hit with it, but I tell you, my dad didn't out with it, and he used to sing it a lot.
All right.
Good to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Right.
0800 218 2255. Once I shouted from the highest hill. I don't remember any more than that, and you ought really to be grateful for that. 0800 218 2255. It's just after 11:10. We're here till 1. If you want to join us, good, you're welcome. How do, Glenn? Your line is awful, Glenn. You sound like you're in a... I'm sorry?
Yeah, can you hear me on? Can you hear me on?
Well, I can hear you now, yes, but I can also hear the people shouting in the background, which I could do with.
Yeah, I'm just going to wake up TV Club, that's all.
Well, I don't want an explanation of why it's going on. I don't want it to happen, but do carry on.
Wait, I'm 50-year-old, and I've never had a girlfriend. Why can't I meet a nice girl? I've thought this many times before. So, in my life, I'm 50-year-old now. I've always liked girls when I was a kid at high school, and I've had 2 girls in my life. A girl, I'm not going there, but she died in 2006. I know the girl that you know very well. Recent. In the past, you told me to try dating sites on, haven't you? And it's not working.
I suggested a variety of different ways that you could get a girlfriend, given that the usual ways appear not to work.
What is it, Alan? Why? I'm ugly. What is it? Why can't I meet her? I'm 50.
I have no idea. I'm not a girl, so I can't tell you what girls, they all look for something different anyway, are looking for.
Yeah.
I'm not and have never been one, so I don't know.
Go away, Mel. Go away, mate. Some guys have a different girl every weekend, and I can't get a girl. Get away, pal. I don't know you. Go away. Just do one. I remember this for years. Go away.
Glenn, this conversation is over. This conversation is over. 0800 218 2255. If you want to ring us back, Glenn, you can do, but get away from other people. I told you I didn't want them in the background. 0800 218 2255. Dead easy. It is a bit weird. I'll do Oscar.
Yeah, hello, Alan. You had a call a little while ago, I think it was Mike, asking about the word latency.
And well, he's asking about latent specifically, but go on.
Yeah, okay. Well, because it's interesting, because the word latency is something that it's flashed through my mind on quite a few occasions, that I might phone you up sometime and have a word with you about it, because he was asking, are there sort of different applications of it, different meanings of it? And certainly in the world of information technology, IT, technical things, the digital domain specifically, there is something called latency, which refers to delay which is generated in the system as a result of the necessary. Well, partly it's unavoidable as the mechanism by which analog media, sound or even vision, is converted to digital and then back again when you're wanting to transport it from one place to another. And you take into consideration what will be the optimum amount of latency, which means what will be the optimum amount of delay that you're going to have in the system. And in some situations, the ideal amount of delay is none. You don't really want any. But part of it happens because of the fact that in order to convert something which is analog, like a sound, into a digital stream to be able to send it over a digital network, the process of actually digitizing the sound in the first place introduces a delay. There's no physical way of doing it otherwise. But then, in addition to that, you can sometimes deliberately introduce additional latency because you want the sound that comes out of the other end to be more robust. You don't want it to be lost as it's transported from place to place. So you deliberately introduce that into a buffer, which ensures that what comes out the other end is a copy of what went in at the input end when the initial noise was made. So you do that for that purpose. But of course, the disadvantage with that, when you're talking about trying to transport something like sounds from A to B and have it replicate what the original sound was as quickly as possible. So when you're trying to do something that's live effectively, then you don't really want latency in the system too much because it introduces a problem. And it's part of the reason why I was thinking of having a chat with you about it, because I personally think that you ought to get your rear end back into the studio so that you're doing the program from within the studio as opposed to doing it from home, because you doing it from home introduces yet another amount of latency in the system in transporting your voice back to the hub. And in addition to that, you've got the callers who are also on digital systems, so there's latency in the line where the callers are communicating back to the studio as well. And all that introduces this delay in the system whereby when you're talking to people on the program, you have this effect of you've started talking and the person who you're talking to doesn't hear that you've started talking until about half a second or a second later, and they started talking as well. So you get this jerky jitteriness that it sounds like you're interrupting one another in a rude manner, when in actual fact it wasn't intended to be that way. And that is happening because of latency in the system, and a way of reducing that latency and having more of an ability to have quick-fire repartee in a conversation would be for you to be in the studio as opposed to you being at home. So I can imagine how you feel about the suggestion, but there are advantages.
It's not how I feel about the suggestion. It's just not going to happen.
Well, that's exactly what I thought you were going to say, that you felt about the suggestion, but for Mike the caller, he said someone was talking about some technical thing, and he said, there's a bit of latency involved, and obviously it's delay, and I just thought I'd mention that is delay that's caused by digitization and transport normally.
Yeah, I'm not altogether sure that a quote from a builder involves that kind of latency, but not to worry, that's what he was talking about. But yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you very much. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. 20 past 11, here till 1. And we had a mention of Poison Ivy, which I think is a cracking song. Loads and loads and loads of bands have done it over the years, including the Rolling Stones. It's fantastic, but then it would be, wouldn't it? It was Charlie Watts. The first time I ever heard of Poison Ivy, I had not a clue what it was. It's fairly easy, isn't it? You know, it's a poisonous ivy, and it's a problem in the United States, but then what isn't? Thank God for taking place. But you just touch it and you end up in this god-awful almighty rash, which is not good at all. And the first time I ever heard of it was as a song by Alan Sherman called Hello Mother, Hello Father, here I am at Camp Granada. Camp is very entertaining. And they say, we'll have some fun if it stops raining. I'm not doing any more of it, don't worry. But anyway, Alan Sherman, Hello Mother, Hello Father. And there's a line in it. He's got poison ivy or something or other. I can't remember. How do Ted?
All right, Alan, kids. You know, do you remember the communication when we were kids, when we had 2 tin cans and a bit of string?
Yeah, aye.
And you should do that today, the kids, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I think they're perfectly happy using mobile phones, but yeah, it was quite fun.
It was amazing, like, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's extraordinary that it worked.
That's the basic thing what they've done today, only with electricity in it.
Well, I suppose you could say that. Yeah, it's kind of the same, but it's not the same. But it is sending a signal, a waveform over an instrument. Only it's an electronic waveform in the case of a microphone and the like, which converts the waveform into an electrical impulse. But in this piece of string, you have to keep it taut so that the waveform can travel along the string. But it does work. It's very clever.
That's amazing, isn't it? And that was the first, you could say, that was the first communication, really, weren't it?
Well, no, they had are they called helioscopes? I think they were. But they used to do a kind of, very rough way of describing it, but a kind of code of using reflections of the sun in a mirror that would travel a great distance. Indeed, they were used to some success quite recently. In the Second World War, they were used from time to time, but that preceded the tin can.
Well, you know the Leonardo Da Vinci picture, Alan, where there's a square and a circle in it. There's a square and a circle in it. You know what that means?
Well, I don't know what you mean by a square with a circle with it, unless you're talking about his picture of a man in a sort of square.
Yeah. But the square and circle, what that represents, the circle represents the woman and the square represents the man.
Right. Okay. Well, but I have no idea. I mean, none of us can ask him because he's been gone a long time.
Yeah, amazing and many the things he was coming out then, like.
Well, yeah. He was clever and he was an interesting painter for sure.
Do you reckon he was seeing spaceships in them days, Alan? He must have been, mustn't he?
Well, you've answered your own question there, but I don't think there were.
Well, Leonardo most probably are based on the spaceship that he saw in the sky and that, flying round.
Well, that's your theory. It's not one I can contribute to, really.
And he's a mathematician, really.
Well, he was all sorts of things. He was a painter. He was an inventor, if you like. He was an ideas man. He was, I suppose, by the standards of the day, he was a mathematician and all sorts of other things, yes.
And you know, when we look up to God, like he's strong and mighty and big, that's the giant, Alan. And I've seen a giant.
Right.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, kid. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, people.
My pleasure. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. I think, I can't be sure, I think that Ted was referring to what's known as the Vitruvian Man, which is that image of a man standing. Well, it's a drawing. It's not a portrait, as it were, but it's a naked man. I suppose you could argue it was two naked men, but it's a naked man with his arms outstretched and his legs together, but then also in the same plane. He's got his legs apart and his arms slightly above the horizontal. So it's a fascinating picture. There's an awful lot of Da Vinci's writing on the original, but I can't read Da Vinci's writing. I think he must have been a doctor as well, judging by the standard of his writing. But one of my favourite paintings in the world is a Leonardo Da Vinci, but it's called The Cartoon, which is a misnomer. It's a misname in many ways, because it's not the kind of, The Simpsons it ain't. And it's on display in the National Gallery in London. And these days it's just on display. It used to have its own little display area, which was, I think, better, but now it's just yet another picture hanging on the wall, as it were. But there you are. Absolutely fabulous work of art. But it's fabulous because you can see what he was doing. Most great masters that we see the finished product. We don't see how they were going about it. But that's known as a cartoon, because all artists would make, all is overstating, but a lot of artists in those days would make a cartoon. They would draw it and then almost colour it in, but replicate it, as it were. One of the other things they did was and this process is still used. I've no idea. Some artists will come on and tell us what it's called. But where they draw an outline and then they put pinpricks all the way around the outline, a sketch, put pinpricks all the way around, and then they place that onto a canvas, and they, for want of a better expression, put dots of paint all through the pinpricks onto the paper, almost like tracing when we were kids. You remember tracing paper? And then you lift off the thing with the pinpricks in, and you've got the outline there. It has a name. Not all artists do it. It's an aid, I think, but it's very clever. It's fascinating, but quite a lot of things about art, when you start looking at it, are fascinating. Mind you, in the end, it's got to be a pretty picture, hasn't it? 0800 218 2255. How do Andrew?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Are you all right?
I'm very well, thank you. You'll have to turn your radio or whatever it is that is on in the background off, so we won't be able to converse.
There's nothing in the radio in the background that can help us, Alan.
Well, I'm not asking it to help. I'm asking it to stop interfering. I want you to turn it off.
Is it interfering? Really? So?
No, not so. Turn it off, Andrew. Turn it off, or we don't have this conversation, because it can't work with that in the background. There we go. So, turned himself off instead. Fair enough. If he wants to go, he can go. 0800 218 2255. There is a reason why we ask you to turn. I mean, I understand you sat there waiting to get on. You're not going to sit there holding a phone in your hand for the next 5 hours, are you? You're just not going to do that. You have the radio on. But if we're having a conversation and you're listening to a radio or whatever, that's slightly behind because of the latency that was being described to us earlier by Oscar. It's slightly behind, which means you can end up listening to the radio to have the conversation, and that doesn't work. You've got to be on the telephone. I'll do Kevin.
Hello, Al.
Hello.
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 Yeah. Okay. What I want to talk about this Mike who rings into you.
Okay. Okay, well, don't talk about him, because that's not fair, but if you want to talk about what he said, that's fine.
Okay, Mike, who rings at you every week, he is so knowledgeable. The music, everything about it. All I want to do is tell the BBC, this guy, Mike, should be doing a programme on BBC Radio website.
Right.
I'm just trying to get the message out there, because nobody is listening.
Right. Well, I can't help you with that or hinder you.
I know you can't, but Mike, you're doing a great job.
We don't have have a good night, Kevin. Kevin, have a good night. We don't talk to other people. Good night. 0800 218 2255. If Mike wants a job at BBC Radio Merseyside, he'd best apply. I don't have any say in it. In fact, I won't even be there before too long, but there you are. 0800 218 2255. Want to join us? You can. It's easy peasy. I know. I mean, I try not to let it. Don't matter now, because I've not got long left. You know, I've got less than a year left, so it don't matter. But people think this job might be hard. Honestly, it's not hard. You've either got the kind of mind that it takes, or you haven't. And the ability to talk rubbish incessantly is an amazing advantage. Honestly. 0800 218 2255. Far too honest. Is is it? Yeah. In refugee housing is acceptable, and that the occupants, refugees, asylum seekers, what have you, should be glad to have a roof over their heads. Well, the second part of that, they should be glad to have a roof over their heads, but to say that, what the hell, bit of mould, better than what they would have had if they stayed where they were, kind of implication. This, incidentally, is a council that stood by as a 2-year-old boy died partly because of mould in his home. Now, I hope the quote that's been attributed to this individual is wrong. I hope even that the quote is malicious. The quotation is malicious and wrong. But even if it's true, I mean, dear God, Rochdale's come a long way since starting the co-op movement, hasn't it? Crying out loud. It's just extraordinary for someone to say such a thing, if indeed the person did. 0800 218 2255. Not everything you catches your eye in the paper turns out to be true. How do, Graham? Hello, Graham. Oh, we have no Graham. Such is life. Worst things happen on the ocean by all accounts. If you want to join us, you can. You've got a bit of time. It's getting on for 20 to midnight, very nearly. We're here till 1. Have a laugh at my funeral. No, not mine. I'm hoping to stick around for a while. Do what you like at my funeral, I'll be dead. But the Sunday Mirror, that's the final wish, apparently. Best pal on Paul's final wish, have a laugh at my funeral. We're talking about Paulo, Grady, of course. Yeah. So, yeah, everybody loved him. Everybody loved him, which is everyone that met him. I've been around. I mean, I've never met him, but I've been around in this sort of radio business for a very, very long time. And I've never heard a word against the man. Never. I mean, you do. You hear about all sorts, and not all of it's true. You hear about people, him, oh, good Lord, the stories I could tell you, that kind of thing. You get that a lot. But I've never heard anyone say anything other than good stuff about Paulo Grady, which is interesting, He's one of those figures, or he was one of those figures that I don't know, stretches above the norm, the mire that we all live in, the backbiting mire that we all live in. He seems to stand above it. There's a few do, but never a cross word about him, never a criticism. But that's one of the front pages. And the Sunday Telegraph, staff can sue their boss if customers offend them. Bloody hell, brace yourself, BBC. Lockdown children wait a year for NHS help, according to the Sunday Telegraph. And cows will get flatulence blockers so that so that the UK can hit net zero. You can just imagine, can't you, walking across a field and the cow goes and the plug flies out and kills somebody. That's going to go down really well, isn't it? It's going to come out at a hell of a speed. There's a lot of pressure inside a cow. Yes, I know it's only burps, but it doesn't work as well. 0800 218 2255. And that's in tomorrow morning's papers. That's not a 1st of April story, that's a 2nd. Maybe because it's a Sunday, they're getting in a bit late, who knows? 0800 218 2255. How do Elizabeth?
Hello to you too. And how are you? Okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Just a few questions for you.
All right.
The vote in May, what exactly is it we're voting for? What are they asking us to vote for?
Well, the voting in May will be the local elections, so what you'll actually be doing is casting your vote to choose which individual or pair of individuals will be elected to the council in your area.
Oh, I see, right, okay. Because I knew it wasn't the election.
It's not the general election, it's the local election.
No, I knew that, so I wasn't sure. Okay. And why are the government sending a siren sound to everybody's telephones in the whole country on the 23rd of April? Is it a war warning siren to our telephone?
Well, the thing that they're sending is a test, first of all, so it means nothing other than did it work? So it's a test. What it's going to be used for, assuming it's successful, what it's going to be used for is so that should there be need to give members of the public a specific warning, there'll be a process there which they're able to use. And in the past...
You mean like a war or something? An invasion?
Well, I mean, I suppose that might be it, but the great thing about the telephone warning is they can control which people get it, because they can control which masts generate or broadcast the signal. So only people in that geographic area. So, for example, if there was a major storm brewing and it was thought that there was a very serious likelihood of flooding in your area, then they can send you that warning that you are likely to be flooded, so you can take whatever preparation suits.
Or any other warning, I suppose.
Well, anything. War is a possibility.
Whirlwind.
Tsunami. All sorts of things. Anything that it is thought that the public need to know, and need to know quickly, so that they can take evasive action. I mean, if you watch the news and then the weather comes on, the weather's...
I don't have
I'm not criticising. Well, that would delay your ability, so you'd be better off with the warning. But even on the radio...
Radio 4 news on the radio sometimes, and it takes an hour, and I don't understand a thing they're saying.
Well, the news itself doesn't take an hour, but there are hour-long news programmes and have lots of things in, and the fact that you don't understand
it... No, I meant the weather programmes.
The weather's...
words for the weather, and I don't understand it.
Well, they kind of have to, because it's a technical subject, but it's too general anyway. They can tell you. I mean, the other week, the people all over the country were suffering floods and God knows what else, and yet there were parts of the country that were not. And sometimes flooding is more localised, and they say, "Oh, there's going to be a flood warning for Dorset." Well, Dorset's bloody enormous. And it's not all going to be flooded, it's just going to be a couple of towns. I'm not diminishing it, but so if you could limit the warning to that specificity, then that might be a better idea. But it's to give the the government and the emergency services a process by which they can warn the populace of whatever hazard they may need to face.
Sorry.
Okay.
And finally, I just wanted to ask, why has Donald Trump been arrested? We know the situation with this Stormy woman, but the authorities already knew about it before they started to do the election. I personally think it's a set-up, and I think Boris Johnson and both Trump have been set up. But probably many won't agree with me.
I'm sure many will and many won't. The thing that is turned what Trump is alleged to have done into a potential crime is that not only did he, it is alleged, not only did he pay off this woman, give her some money, or got his lawyer to pay the money, and then when the lawyer had paid the money, Donald Trump, of course, had to give the money to the lawyer, and he put that through his taxes, it is alleged, as a business expense. But paying off someone to keep the mouth shut can't constitute. So that there he's been accused of fiddling his taxes, if you like, and that's a criminal offence in America as it is here. So that's why it's involved an arrest and why he's going to go to court.
Right.
But he is alleged to have committed a crime, and the prosecutor in America, the district attorney, as they're called, is saying, look, nobody's above the law in this country.
Right. Okay. Okay. Nice speaking to you. Take care.
And you. Have a good night. I'll try. 0800 218 2255. How do Malcolm?
Hi, Alan. Nice to speak to you again. I've been listening to a piece of music. I've been playing a bit on the piano, and I think she was blind or deaf, and the tune was like dun 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 dun, and I don't know who the composer was, and or where she was from.
I'm afraid I don't recognise the piece of music. Do you want to try it again?
I can play it on the piano, but it's like I don't know what. It was down, 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 down. And I don't know if it came out in the 70s or the 80s. And I can't think. I mean, maybe Mike might have known that in the future. But my second point, moving on from that, was there was a game in Liverpool at Goodison, and it snowed. It was a reserves game. That was in the 70s. If anyone in Liverpool can remember that game, and they used an orange ball. That's the only ground I've been to. I wonder if anybody can remember that game.
They may be able to, and they'll come on and maybe they'll tell us about the game and tell us about the tune as well. Like football and music are not my suits, so
I never found out about the submarine, Alan. Remember the phone last time? I didn't get any.
Right.
I've asked about when I mentioned about the submarine docking in Poole. In Crosby around there, Poole docks. I didn't hear anything about that.
I couldn't find any record of it, and given that nobody else seems to remember it, perhaps your memory's playing tricks on you.
I definitely did go on board with my brother-in-law and sister and my other brother. But at least, anyway, the clocks are going forward. A bit sunny as the weather's through everything, Alan, hasn't it, Mother Nature?
Malcolm, the clocks went forward last week.
That's right. And
not going forward, they've gone forward.
Alan, I wanted it's just about. Can I mention this about benefits? Why a payday moves from a Friday to a Wednesday of next week. And they said because it had something to do with the shorter months or something. I wonder if people are aware that anyone who's... Say, I get paid Universal Credit weekly, mine gets broken down. And sometimes it can go to a Monday, it's gone to a Wednesday. Now, I was paid last Friday. I should have been paid yesterday.
How often, Malcolm, how often do you receive it?
Every week, Universal Credit, but
every week.
It's been Fridays. Yeah, mine's broken down into weekly. So I went yesterday. He said you are now due on Wednesdays, which is over a week. Even when I went to the bank, I won't mention. The bank said, well, why have you not been paid today, Friday? This was yesterday.
I don't have an answer to that. Did you ask the benefits people?
Yeah, they wrote down, said you will be paid from now on every Wednesday. This is from next Wednesday, but that money is from Friday to Friday, and it changes whether that's to do with not calculation, to do with calendar days or. It's very strange, out of the way the benefits. I mean, if you're on JSA, you get paid a certain day, but that can change. It's a bit complicated, but I know I'm getting paid on Wednesday. Touch wood, so it should be okay. Yeah.
Well, changing the payment date can be a problem for some people. You say you'll manage, but it can be a problem if you've organised your finances.
That's it, all your finances, yeah, exactly.
So if you've organised your finances in such a way that you run out of money on Thursday night, you get your new money on Friday, and then they say, no, you're not getting it till Wednesday, that's a few days you've got to get by without any money, because there's no slack in universal credit, is there?
That's it. It's a bit confusing. And, can I mention about the, is there still a case pending? If not, I won't mention it. Can I mention about the, or can I, Olivia case, can I mention that? Now,
when you say the Olivia case, do you mean that young lass that was Olivia Bell?
He was also, as we know, he was a drug dealer, and he fired a bullet, which so it's still murder, but he didn't intend. I'm not defending him. The girl, God love her, was behind the door. So the lesser charge would be manslaughter, but it's still murder, and plus he was dealing drugs. I won't mention his name.
The argument would be that when he fired the weapon, his intention was to murder somebody. So his intention, murder's all about intention. He intended to murder somebody, and the fact that he murdered the wrong person doesn't make it manslaughter, because his intent was to commit murder, and he committed murder. He just killed the wrong person. So that's why it was murder and not manslaughter. And also, you can be done for murder merely because the behaviour was reckless.
Yeah. It is the law and whatever leading up to that, and in these, I think, well, they should have, like it was the bobby on the beach. Well, it used to be the bobby on a bike clipped out the ear. And I'm not saying the police, but sometimes they all the resources to put bobbies on the beach, and it takes something like that for them to wake up and smell the coffee. It's very sad, you know what I mean, but it's not the first time that has happened. My thoughts and prayers go out to Olivia's family and Olivia. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he still committed, even though he didn't. Yeah. he's still been carrying a firearm, and he haven't found the firearms. We're still looking for it. All right, Alan.
All right, Malcolm, good to hear from you. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do Glenn?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got confronted by
what would you like to talk about, Glenn?
So I just like to come in and converse about me not being able to get a girlfriend. Yeah, you know, like I don't know why. I'm 50-year-old now, and I'm never going to get married or have children because I've no girlfriend. All I've got is a girlfriend that takes money off me, and what you set on it, upsetting. Yeah. Yeah, well, I keep thinking, what's wrong with me, Alan? And you know, I can't do it. It's what's happening. I've just been broadcast on Beswicks for 7 years. I'm not girlfriend. I don't think girls listening. That nobody likes me. Nobody wants me. What's wrong with me? You don't feel like crying. And I'm from being a kid at high school, and I always like girls. I'm not good looking. I'm not nice. You know, I'm not a bad bloke, am I? I do invest in life.
Right, I mean, I can't answer that. Nobody can. Not everybody manages to find the person that suits them, and that's just the way the world is.
You know, you got one life, and that's it. I'm a virgin at 50 and I can't meet anyone for one night stand. And there's a lot of nice league girls on in Accrington. I can't get to know my own clubs and pubs there empty during the week. There's no chance there. I've tried dating sites, there's no luck there. So it looks like I'm living all my life. I've been left at the shelf and I'm going to Blackpool Monday. I'm going to Lindsay Hotel Blackpool for one night. I'm working tonight. I'm just going one night on Monday night. But I hope everyone listening to this knows that I'm not a bad person. I've done my best with life. And I hope everyone's okay with Putin and there's not a nuclear war. And God bless them.
Okay. Good to hear from you, Glenn. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. I have no idea why Glenn can't get a girlfriend. I have no idea why anybody can or can't get a partner. I don't understand the machinations of relationships. I really don't. Back to the newspapers. The Eye for the weekend. Biggest tax squeeze in 30 years for UK workers. Council tax, water bills, energy, mobile phones and broadband costs increased today. Income tax goes up next week. This will cheer everybody up. Greatest crunch for UK personal finances since the 1990s, according to economists. Rising prices add to the pressure on Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt to cut taxes this year. Awful April changes cost basic rate taxpayers £500 this year, with £1,000 for the higher rate, at 14% extra on mobile and broadband, 7.5% on water, just so they can throw crap in our water, and £99 on broadband council tax. Not broadband council tax, Band D council tax. So there, I don't know which band I'm on, I've no idea. The Daily Star on Sunday, rain, go away, turn up the heat this holiday, little poem. Easter Bunny in sunnies, so they're hoping it's going to get warm for Easter Day, which is nice. Sunday Express, Rishi has 6 months to sort out the boats crisis. I wish him luck with that. Yeah, chance to be a fine thing. I don't think anyone's going to sort it out. It's very strange. So that's what we're hanging the election on, apparently. The UK, seeing as how we're talking about people coming to the UK is the private jet capital of Europe. The private jet capital of Europe. I read that this week. But extraordinary. It seems as if getting a flight to anywhere is easier than getting a bus to town in some areas, but at least the rich are happy, which is what we really need, isn't it? And Prince Harry He's been in the news this week. He turned up at the High Court in London, where he's suing the owners of the Daily Mail. Of course he turned up. The television cameras were there, dear God. Never want to miss an opportunity to stare down the lens at the idiot box. Meanwhile, his old fellow was in Germany, having been stood up by France, poor beggar, and will be laying a wreath at a memorial for those Germans killed by Allied bombing in World War II. Is that controversial? I mean, it's right and proper that we recognise the dead and all of that, and one of the things that royalty and prime ministers and all that lot do when they're in other countries, lay wreaths, but laying a wreath at the memorial for those people, those Germans, killed by Allied bombing in World War II. 0800 218 2255. Do you think the King, do you think the King should have done that? I don't know. Well, in the end, it doesn't matter. It's probably a lump of rock and some roses and a bloke in a nice suit or even uniform putting the plant down. But he says, can you imagine a lot of RAF men were less than pleased at that? But who knows? 0800 218 2255. You got an hour to join us if you wish. Here's Katrina with "And I in that jolly way that I can muster." Yeah, right. And I said, shouldn't have touched it. Told you it was hot. Okay, it wasn't funny, I'll grant you that. But do you remember when you were a kid and you were going to eat a chip and your mum would blow it if she thought it was too hot and then give it to you? Did that work, or was it psychological? I mean, it seems to me just one little blow like that, that's not going to cool it down, is it? We were just conned, weren't we? We were conned. I guess Mum's con us all the time. 0800 218 2255. How do Ethan?
Hi, Allan.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to ring off to tell you I'm stroking my shit right now and I'm thinking of you.
Good night. 0800 218 2255 if you wish to join us, even if you had your brain removed. I'll do Graham.
Flipping it. Really quick though, Alan. Again, I just speaking to the senorita, the staff there. And I won't say how you do it and all that, because you must say that in your sleep. Are you there?
Yeah, I am, yeah. I'm listening.
Oh, no, it's just, pardon?
I didn't say anything, I'm just listening.
All right, I know you do them at the same time. There you go. It's the... Right, it's one of them phones that won't the way it says to give me. Yeah, okay, improvise. You know what, originally I'm going to mention UFOs.
Okay.
Like the other guys, I like what, is it Steve or Mike, or all you get mixed up with names, and yeah, but Elkie Roots. Yeah, really good trivia kind of thing, isn't it? When he says it's pretty good. It's good stuff that he comes out with. I thought he would have mentioned like with Elkie Brooks, like a lot of Jewish entertainers. She's a Jewish girl. Did you know that? I thought he would have mentioned that. Like.
Why would you mention somebody's religion? We don't tell you that Paul McCartney's whatever.
Well, a lot of people are they're very ultra talented. A lot of people like Billy Joel. Yeah, you know, from the Jewish background. You know, that's what I'm aiming at.
Well, all sorts of people are very talented and from all sorts of faith and no faith. The religion of an individual in the entertainment industry is of no significance whatsoever.
Well, I'm not going to say I beg to differ, Alan, but like what I've heard, you know, well, being a muso myself, like, you know, a lot of them are really renowned. You know, like the classical composers,
obviously. Well, I mean, and then you can call it.
Graham, I know you don't mean to be, but to say a lot of Jewish people are talented is the same as saying a lot of, I don't know, Irish people are talented, red-headed English people are talented. A lot of people are talented, and it is their faith, or lack of it, has no contribution to their talent.
Yeah, sure. Well, but they're always up there. You know, like, you know, like me coming from an Irish.
Graham, was you accidentally, I think, but you are walking slowly towards racism.
Well, I'm being stood corrected there, Alan.
Well, I've tried a couple of times to direct you away from the idea that we can suggest that because a person is Jewish they have a better chance of being entertaining or what have you. It's not really something that we want said, and it's not even true.
Well, I think too much of ice cream is clouding your vision, Alan.
Right. But it's not turning me into a racist, for which I am grateful. You're on the way. Do have a good night. Goodbye. 0800 218 2255. I did try. I mean, I tried to make allowance, but quite frankly, you just give up in the end. Well, I do. And yes, ice cream may well have affected my vision. And no, I didn't buy it off an Italian. I know. 0800 218 2255. It is weird that people attribute sort of... I don't even know it's attribution. I have trouble with it, you know? I mean, who is the greatest rock star ever? Elvis Presley. What faith was he? I haven't a clue. I don't want to know. Johnny Cash. What faith was he? I don't know. I don't want to know. Elkie Brooks. I did know faith because I'd just read a piece in the internet about it to find out the name of that club, and so I did know, but it's irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant. I don't care who they care about, who they worship, if indeed they do. It's irrelevant. I haven't the faintest idea what religion Paulo Grady was. Why would I? What's the point of it? It's ludicrous. People are the faith they are, and they're entitled to it, but it doesn't change their abilities. Doesn't even change the chance of getting into heaven, because there isn't one. Now do Alan.
Hi, Alan. How are you doing, all right?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. A couple of weeks ago, you may recall that we spoke basically about solar panels, but it doesn't matter. In final, I think I heard you say that on your retirement you were looking to buy a motorhome or camper van.
No, never in my life have I said such a thing.
Yeah, I've got it wrong then. I thought that you were interested, and I'm not trying to sell you a camper van, obviously, or motorhome.
That's all right. I have absolutely no interest in them at all. I like comfortable hotels. I don't want to live in a shed.
We can end our conversation here then.
Then. I mean, you can tell me the merits of them if you wish, but I have no interest in having
them. It wasn't the merits of the because now we spend a lot of time in France. Yeah?
Yes, but not in vans.
No, I don't mean not in vans. Yeah, I don't know where you spend your time in France, but I've just heard you over the many years I've been listening to you, that you go to France quite often and obviously stay in, gîtes or houses or hotels or whatever.
Well, when I go to France, I go for a month, and so I rent a house.
I'm not that rich, that's why I've got a camper van.
Well, indeed. And I appreciate that camper vans... I mean, I know people who are rich that absolutely love theirs, and they're not one of these £1 million one where you press a button and it doubles in size. Just an ordinary one. A pal of mine who's very comfortably off loves going on caravan holidays. I've I've asked him to explain to me what's the pleasure. I can't see it at all. But to eat. I mean,
I can't see it.
Go on.
Sorry.
It's all right. You go on.
I can't see the advantage of a holiday caravan or all these trips that they go on. I'm pretty much alone and go wild camping. And I did spend 18 months I built a barge and took it to France. And we sailed the canals, me and my wife. But the barge got too big, it was 26 ton. So we sold that and I went into camper vanning. So I spent most of my time for the last 11 years going around France. And I thought, maybe I can just give you a couple of little tips. But that's a waste of time now because you're not buying one.
Indeed. You say you bought a barge, did it up and took it to France, across the channel?
Yeah.
Because
I across the channel. I know what you're going to say. Are you going to say you read the book? Was it a dog?
A fella took a narrowboat across the channel. And I didn't even think you could do that, but he did it, and I did read the book, and he did take his dog with him, yes.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the book. I read it for the first full quarter.
It was
Mad Dog to Carcassonne.
That's it, Mad Dog to Carcassonne. You're right.
Yeah, that's it. I did the same trip. I did the same trip as that book from Dunkirk down to Dijon, because that's the way you go. And also, that's the trip that I can't remember the names now. She was on 40 Towers, and Timothy West.
Oh, right.
Timothy West.
Prunella Scales.
Yeah. They did the same trip from Dunkirk, and I watched that series. And of course, I recognised places that were going down, and the same thing with the Mad Dog, because the Mad Dog was telling the story, and I recognised those places. But that's bye-bye.
I mean, I don't suppose Mr. Weston's Scales took the narrowboat across the channel.
No, he didn't. No.
But I think a couple of them have done it. Chefs have done it, for television, and they've done it and stopped and had meals everywhere and all that. He did one, that fella that does all the fish and eats anything that's been in the sea. Although think about that twice these days with what's been let go. But and him and others have done it. I think. I can't remember now, but there's quite a few of them had a go at it, and good luck to them,
Yeah, mine wasn't a narrowboat. Mine was what they call a wide beamer. It was 12 foot wide by 50 foot long. But I shipped it over on a truck and got it lifted in at Dunkirk. Right. I wouldn't take a narrowboat across the channel.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean,
being a sailor,
we now know it can be done, but that doesn't mean you should do it.
That's right. I'm not quite a refugee yet.
Well, there's a pal of mine. He's a sailor. That's not his job. He sails, and it does nothing for me. And he loves it, and good on him. We all have to like different things. But
we're all different.
What are you doing? Just sitting there basically on a boat, and you put the sail up and it goes a bit quicker, and you waggle it about and you turn. I think, that's nice. Yeah.
No, it's not that simple, is it?
To each their own.
It's not that simple, Elie.
Oh, I'm not saying it's simple.
I mean,
it's like skiing.
I wouldn't
understand people going skiing.
Well, I could break a leg.
Well, you can always get injured doing stuff.
That's right.
I know a bloke who fell off the step and broke his neck.
No.
He fell off the back.
What was he climbing?
No, honestly, you have that weatherboard on the step.
Yeah.
Where the front door or the back door or whatever. And the council houses I was brought up in, they all had the back door closed against a weatherboard at the bottom. And he was only young, he was sober, he was only a kid. And he fell over, tripped over that, fell, landed awkwardly, and broke his neck. I mean, he was fine. Yeah, he broke his neck. He cracked a bone in his neck, or damaged a bone in his neck. And he wore a collar for ages. And we obviously took the mickey out of him somewhat rotten, but why wouldn't you? We were kids, we know no better. But he's fine.
That's right.
You know, but all he did was fall over. Weird. Such is life. Alan, I'm sorry to disappoint, but my interest in camper vans and camping is nil. I did enough camping in the bloody army. I'm not doing any more.
Okay. It's just made out.
Good night, mate.
Thank you very much. See you, Alan.
It's a pleasure. And if you get a chance, by the way, that book, Mad Dog to Carcassonne, I don't know whether that's the proper title. If it isn't, the story is about a man who took a narrowboat, you know, one of those long things, 40 foot long and like 8 feet wide or whatever it is, that you usually often see on canals. But he took one on first of all, he took it all the way down to the south coast somehow, presumably on the canals, and then went over the channel on it. I don't know anyone else that's done that. I don't know of anyone else that's done it, but I suppose they must have done, but there you were. And I think, maybe it is called Mad Dog to Carcassonne. I'll look it up. How do Paul?
I hope, Alan. Before I get on to my main thing, Alan, just a quick one before I get on to my main topic.
Okay.
You know, parking, double yellow lines now. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be illegal to park on double yellow lines at one time. Why is everybody? Well, the town I live in Greater Manchester, it's what it is when it gets to 6 o'clock at night. They know that the traffic wardens are around, and the police say now it's a civil matter, and they don't want to get involved. They don't want to issue any tickets. Now, all weekend it happens as well. I live on a busy road, and they park both sides of it now on the double yellows. But they never used to be allowed at one time. I just wondered if something changed.
I'm not aware of anything changing.
No. Is it just that we don't have enough police to police it, you think, or it's low-level crime or something? I don't know.
Well, it is low-level crime, that's for sure. Nobody dies. Yeah. But the double yellow line indicates that you shouldn't park there at any time. There is an issue, which I made a little television piece about this when we were doing Beswick's Beat on North West Tonight years ago. If the line is broken, or if it hasn't got the right angle to the curb stop line, then it becomes invalid.
Oh, right. Well,
so if the line is broken, so if the council come along and do some work and don't replace the line immediately, then the line is broken. It has to be a continuous line from the bar, as it's called, to the next bar. And it has to be, two continuous lines in the case of a double set of a double yellow line.
Yeah, I can see why police don't want to get involved.
Well, no, they don't want to get involved.
Yeah, no. What I spoke to reception on, I don't want to talk about squirrels, the grey squirrels. Now, I've always wanted to park in my local area. Now, since lockdown come and all that, and then everyone started going out getting fresh air, there's a lot more people out and about, which is a good thing. And today was no exception. It was a decent day, loads of people in the park. But I've noticed since more people have been going, they're feeding the squirrels. Now, the squirrels, I got ambushed today by 3 squirrels. They came right up to me, and this is about the 3rd or 4th time. One actually run up my leg a few weeks ago. But they're coming right up to you, look, as if they're asking for food. Like at one time, they'd scarper years ago when you saw them. But now they're like the size of rabbits, and they have this expectation that you've got something in your pocket for them, And I just wondered, why on earth are we doing this? Are we going to have squirrel flu next and all this, Is it wise?
I don't know if squirrel flu, but But it's unwise. They're disgusting things. I used to kill them.
Yeah, they're still classed as vermin, aren't they?
I know, yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I see it was something that really irritates me when I see there's a particular guy I've seen him a few times, and he's holding nuts out and they're running up his arms, and I don't know if he's just an attention seeker or he doesn't realise that he could get a disease or something, you know. Well, is this what happened with the monkeys on the rocket jet motor?
I don't know the history of. They're still quite nasty, apparently, but yeah, people do feed them because they're stupid.
Yeah.
Like people who feed seagulls and pigeons. What are you feeding them for?
Yeah,
they're vermin. The difference is you can't shoot seagulls, but you can shoot squirrels, or at least you can kill them. It's not a good idea to shoot them loose, as it were.
But most seagulls, I mean, I can remember going to Cornwall years ago, and one snatched the ice cream out of my little girl. She was a little girl now. She's late 30s now, but that long ago, big bloody seagull come round and snatched it out of her hand, you know. I mean, we don't want to be encouraging animals to do things like that, do we? Surely not.
No, we don't. But, people are thick. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
People, not all of them by any means, but there are a lot of thick people about. What a lovely little squirrel. Wait till it takes a lump out your finger. See what you think of it then. Dear God.
But they are aggressive and they dehumanize. They're like, But I noticed as well as this, they'd actually, our local council, I won't say which one it is, but it's Greater Manchester one, but they put signs on the duck pond, please don't feed the ducks. Now, it's crazy. We've been feeding dogs, in the late 60s now, and as far as I remember from being a little boy, I've always fed, little bits, and it's always been a nice thing to do, a pleasant thing to do. But they seem to have ignored the problem with this.
It's not a pleasant thing for the duck. It ends up eating the food that you give it, and then it doesn't, because its stomach's then full, it doesn't get the food that it needs to be fit and healthy.
Right. Well, we've only ever fed them bread, but I've never seen.
It's like people. But there's no value in bread for a duck. None.
Right.
Just like there's not much value. You try living on bread. See how you go.
Yeah.
But the undertaker before you get too weak. And it's not good for them either. They don't live on bread. No. I promise you. If you go back 100 years and you find all these ducks, go to one of the Fowridge places, one of the places where you go to see them. Like the place in Burscough. You go there. Yeah. All them waterfowl they've got there. They don't got one of them between them. Not one.
No.
Because they don't need it, because they don't bake bread, they don't eat it. No. It's crazy. People feed all sorts of things to animals. They're not the faintest idea. It's like people who have horses have to put signs up now saying, please don't feed the horses. People used to give them bread. For God's sake. People put milk out. No. They they're not your horse
or something else. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Let the person who owns the horse worry about the horse's diet.
Yeah, that's
not you as you're passing by. I mean, people put milk out for hedgehogs. It kills them.
Yeah.
And they think, we've got an hedgehog in the garden. Let's put some bread and milk out. Yeah, it'll be dead in 3 days.
But why don't they put signs out there about the squirrels then, do you think? I mean, just to...
I've no idea. Probably costs money.
Right.
Well, the people are, the squirrels aren't.
No. Well, if somebody gives you food, you're going to go back, aren't you? You're not going to want your food if somebody's daft enough to give you it every day.
Yes, they're like humans. They want the easy life. Yes, of course they are. They're getting loads of food.
Yeah. But,
I used to trap them and shoot them.
Yeah, good. Sometimes I feel like confronting this guy who does it, but I don't want to get, upsetting or anything, but I just want to point out the obvious. He could get ill if these things bite him or something, Oh, it's not very hygienic, is it, when we're in forced, COVID and all this, You don't know where that's come from, do you? But anyway, it's up to them, innit, Alan?
It is up to them. I just wish people would stop feeding wild animals. Let them be wild. Yeah. But good to talk to you, Paul. Have a good night, mate. Right, How do, Les?
Right, Alan. You had a caller on, 3 callers back, saying that Elkie Brooks was Jewish, and you actually said something like you bordering on the lines of racism.
Well, that wasn't. I do remember the call. That statement wasn't racist. When he started to suggest that being Jewish helps you to be a certain kind of person, that's where it starts to get towards racism.
Yeah. Now, okay. So my point was, you had a song. You wrote a song about Jehovah's Witnesses. Was that a skit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's racism.
They're not a race.
It doesn't matter. You're being racist against a religion.
Well, to be racist,
hang on, you said before,
to be racist, it has to involve a race.
No. You said before about racism being what religion they are, what nationality they are. That's racism, Alan. And you're a racist.
Well, you're definitely. If that's what you want to think, Les, I don't care. You carry on thinking it, mate.
Well, you call them. You're saying to people that are bordering on the racism.
Les. You've got your view. I've got mine.
Are you a racist
They differ.
person? Are you a racist?
By your definition.
Well, why would you want to do that? What harm have they ever done to you?
Who are we talking about now?
Jehovah's Witnesses.
They're not a race.
Why sing a skit song about them? What harm have they ever done to you?
Because it's funny.
None. Oh, so do you think you can just and then you actually played the song on that night? I think you were out of order.
Well, that's fine. You're entitled to your view. I've no desire to change it.
Oh no, yeah. I'm well entitled to my view.
Exactly. And you've expressed it, and that's fine.
And I'm glad you let me. And about the guy with the squirrels, he wants to stop wearing flares.
They get all the sailors, but maybe I'm being racist about sailors.
I'll keep listening to you now.
I'm glad to hear it. Do have a good night.
I won't let.
0800 stop wearing flares. 0800 218 2255. I don't think sailors wear flares anymore, do they? Well, did they wear flares, or was it just baggy pants? You know, when they used to have those like 12 folds in the leg. I know, but I don't think they do anymore. I don't know. How do, Pauline?
Hello, Alan. Thank you very much for taking my call. I discovered this station, and it's a great station. Listening to you and Dalton and Laura. But what I just wanted to make a point. I have heard that you've had a couple of nasty calls where you have to cut them out, and they haven't. And I think, well, if people are going to phone in with nothing useful to say, just to say something where you have to cut them out, why bother phoning? So it must annoy you at times, does it?
I get the money, whatever they do, love, so it don't matter much.
You know, that's all I wanted to say, you know.
All right.
But you handle it very well anyway, and it's great. It's a great station. And thank you anyway for taking my call.
It's all right. It's why I'm here. Thank you very much, Pauline. 0800 218 Bye-bye. 0800 218 2255 if there's something you want to say. And those people, they're just kids, but that's fine. We've all been kids, haven't we, in the end? But they don't realise how silly they sound. But that's the trouble. You can't put intelligence into children. They'll gain it. You plant the seed and you hope when they grow up, assuming they ever will, it'll be fine. But and people swear when we're having a ding dong, and we don't let it ride. We have to pull them up. But it's midnight. You know what I mean? So it's a broader sort of interpretation of what's acceptable. And we don't use a delay on the BBC. When I've done these programmes in commercial radio, they use a delay. So if somebody does say something unbroadcastable, you just cut them off and nobody even knows it happened. But I'm afraid we don't use one in the BBC because it's considered infradig, or words to that effect. Anyway, 0800 218 2255. Shall we do it? We mentioned it, didn't we? Well, I did. Hello, Mother, hello, Father. We did mention it, so shall we play it? And you'll hear the poison ivy in it. Go on, we'll play it. We'll get to another one that was considerably less successful, called Shine on Harvey's Moon, as opposed to Harvest, I presume. Nothing like as funny. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. I had an aunt and uncle who ran a boys' camp in Canada, and they used to have all sorts of rich people's kids. They only ran it, they didn't own it. They were just the manager and manageress, I suppose. And they had staff and all that. It was on an island in one of the big lakes. And rich people sent their kids there to be, I don't know, to be hidden, I suppose. And they used to get up to all sorts. It was great for them. And they lived on the island all year, which is fantastic. Anyway, there you go, years ago. I'll do Jack.
Hello, Allan.
Hiya.
Hi, sorry, I just turned my radio down. 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Alexa, turn down by 2.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, you have to turn it off, really, because if I can hear it, then it's confusing.
Oh, well, that's no good, is it, Ellen? Okay, so, Allan, I wanted to talk to you about tea rooms, if I could, please.
By all means.
I was just up in York this weekend, and I noticed they've got quite a few tea rooms. I was just wondering why they haven't spread to the rest of the UK.
Well, they have. There are tea rooms all over the place.
I was wondering why there's such a high concentration in York.
I don't know, but the headquarters of Taylor's Coffee and Tea Importers, which owns the Betty's Tea Rooms chain, which is very famous, is in York, and I think we've got another one in Ripon, and there's a few knocking about now, but Betty's was very famous.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I love the Taylor's coffee.
It's all right, yeah.
I don't mind it. Allan, what do you think about the nurses not getting such a good pay rise as what they asked for?
I don't think about it at all, really, because I'm not a nurse anymore.
Am I right in thinking that you was a psychiatric nurse?
You are correct, yeah.
Okay, and I believe they've been offered a small percentage pay rise, is that correct?
They haven't been offered what they want.
Okay. I don't really know how to put this into words, but would you prefer a crumpet or a tea cake?
I don't think I'd bother with either, really.
What about with butter on?
I was assuming that was the case anyway, but I still wouldn't bother with either.
Allan, you cannot confer that butter is always consumed.
I didn't say consumed, I said assumed, but there you go.
Would you prefer butter on a tea cake or a crumpet?
I wouldn't eat either.
What would you eat?
Well, I haven't got time to tell you everything I would eat, but it doesn't include either of those things.
What about for a late night snack before bed? Maybe a glass of milk and a cookie, or
No.
Alan, what do you think about the Podence attack on the Nottingham Forest player today?
I didn't even know there was one.
There was a spitting incident.
Right. Well, that's always disgusting.
It's absolutely barbaric.
It's barbaric. It's certainly disgusting.
Indeed. Alan, would you say you prefer Conway or Skegness?
I'm trying to remember if I've been to Skegness. I don't think I have.
Well, it can't be that great if you've been to Skegness, because you can't remember if you've been there.
Well, I've been around a long time and been to lots and lots of places. I was just trying to remember whether...
0800 218 2255 if you've got any questions for Alan tonight.
Right.
Alan, whereabouts do you live in North Wales? Is it Conway?
I'm not telling you.
Do you live in Conway or the Route 255 in Scotland?
Like I said, I'm not telling you.
Do you like Wales or Scotland best?
I don't see it as a sort of choice, really.
Okay. Would you ever consider yourself a kilt wearer?
I've never worn one so far.
Would you wear one thus far?
If there was a reason to, I wouldn't be bothered.
Okay. Would you wear one now?
There'd be little point wearing one now. I'm sat down in an office.
I believe it's called a kilt in Scotland.
What is?
A kilt. It's a. Let me just hang on a second.
A kilt is called a kilt everywhere because it's a kilt.
Yeah, but is it not a Scottish dress?
I believe it is the case that some people in Scotland wear a kilt, but it is not exclusively Scottish.
Of course, sorry, my mistake. So a kilt is a garment resembling a wraparound knee-length skirt made of twill-woven worsted wool with heavy pleats at the sides and back, and traditionally a tartan pattern.
That was a statement, so...
That's correct. Would you say that GCSEs are exclusive?
I don't know what the word exclusive means in that context.
Would you say they're exclusive to the UK?
The General Certificate of Secondary Education is a UK award, if you like. Whether there is an equivalent in other countries, I have absolutely no idea.
You played a hard bargain, Alan.
I don't think we're making a bargain.
Alan, would you say sheep have knees?
The plural of sheep is sheep.
Sorry, would you say sheep have knees?
Have need of what?
Have knees.
I don't know. I think they must have, because they can bend their front legs, and we call that joint the knee.
Alan, would you like to see 4 knees on their sheep?
I wouldn't like to see 1, 2, 3 or 4. I have no interest in observing sheep.
Would you like to see their sheep with black face on their black knees?
I don't care.
Okay. Okay, Alan, have you heard of IKEA?
I've heard of it, yes. The very first one in the United Kingdom was in Warrington, my hometown. So, yes, I've heard of it.
Alan, I must tell you, I love Warrington.
Why wouldn't you?
The birthplace of my idol, IKEA.
Well, it's not the birthplace of IKEA. I believe that was a different country entirely.
5 for your phone-ins tonight. 0800 218 2255. The birthplace of IKEA, Warrington.
No, Warrington is not the birthplace of IKEA.
Alan, what is your best thing you've bought from IKEA?
I don't know that I've bought anything from IKEA.
Are you saying you don't like IKEA?
I can't tell. I've not bought anything there.
Where do you buy your furniture?
From furniture shops, other than IKEA.
Other furniture shops are available.
This is true.
Alan, can I sing a song before I go?
No. How do John?
Who?
Hello, John.
Hello.
Yeah?
Hello, Alan. I've rung up today to talk about the crisis in Ukraine.
Okay.
See, me and my mates, we're not happy with what's going on. Overall, we think that Russia should just take Ukraine and we should let them have it.
Right.
We want to know your opinions on this.
Not got one?
No opinions, Alan.
Correct.
Correct. We've been observing the radio, and I feel like you're an NPC. You never really have your own opinion on anything, do you?
Sometimes I do, but rarely.
Would you say you're a non-player character, though?
I don't know what that term means. A non-what character?
A non-player character.
Non-player?
Yep.
I've no idea what a non-player is, other than somebody that doesn't play.
That sounds like something an NPC would say, Alan.
What would? What would say?
Hello?
You're a different person. Get off. Good night. How do, Roger?
Oh, hello, Alan.
Hello, Roger.
Hello. Well, since I've retired, I do watch a lot of television.
Right.
And I watch some programs, conspiracy theories and such like. And people who see ghosts and try and record them and all this, and aliens and spaceships. And now I've got my own conspiracy theory, because about 7 or 8 years ago I started to get macular degeneration in my eye, which is my type of the type that I've got. Nothing can be done for it. So gradually I started seeing things in this, just looking up in the summer and seeing like spaceships, little dots going, little light dots and round dots, and then I realised, it's my eyes. And then later on, a couple of years ago, I started seeing dark shadows out the corner of my eye. Well, apparently this is quite normal, the way it progresses. So my theory is all these people, these conspiracy theorists who see this and see that, I think they all should go to Specsavers. and get their eyes checked. Because it's some of it's so ridiculous.
Perhaps they ought to get their bumps felt as well.
Yeah, you with the big heads, the big round heads, I feel the bumps. Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks, Alan. Cheers, mate.
My pleasure, mate. Good luck with your eyes. I know it's degenerative, but good luck anyway. Good to talk to you. 0800 218 2255. How do Tom?
Hi, Alan.
Hiya.
Hi, you're right. You doing well?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Brilliant. So the topic I want to address is there's an International Women's Day which is very, very well celebrated. However, I feel International Men's Day is not celebrated as much, and I want to discuss that discrepancy between.
You seem to have disappeared.
Hello?
Oh, you are there, right?
Oh, did you hear my topic or not?
Yes, I heard it, and you said you were going to discuss it, but...
No, I was just understanding if you had any opening or not. Because personally, for myself, I feel there are a lot of unspoken hardships which the male gender has to suffer, which isn't as celebrated. As rightfully so, the female gender does have etc. when it comes to their everyday life, and I think this is very, very true, but I think there are a lot of unspoken ones which the male gender has, which isn't as talked about. And I was wondering, for example, so I had this conversation with my girlfriend the other day, say whenever we're out and it gets a little bit lively in a bar and it gets a little bit aggressive, it's me that has to worry about, I want to protect us two as a couple. And that's a worry that realistically never has to go on to, say, the female sex. And that's not like a gripe at all for myself. And I love to do that as a boyfriend or whatever. But it generally falls onto the male sex. And it's something that a lot of men have to worry about. Like, I know that whenever a man comes into a bar, I will scope him out. He's a bit pissed, or he's a bit drunk or whatever. He looks a bit like he's a bit aggressive, and I have to keep an eye and all that in case anything intrudes on us two as a couple. However, as an International Man's Day, I'd prefer that to reflect in the same sense as an International Women's Day.
Right.
And is there any opinion from yourself?
I think many women would say that every day is International Men's Day.
And what about yourself?
I don't think we need an International Men's Day. What will I do with it?
What do you mean, what would you do with it?
Well, what would it involve, International Men's Day?
No, I'm just saying, I think it would be nice to have an appreciation for certain things that, because obviously you're an educated man, and as am I, and both of us realise the struggles women have on a day-to-day basis. However, I think maybe because men do not deserve, as you said, women have a hell of a lot more struggles every single day than men do. And I think, personally, we do not deserve really as much as women do, in the sense of, and the appreciation, etc., etc. But I think one day a year would be brilliant to be like, shit, sorry, apologies for swearing, to appreciate the, as I said, you're there, you're walking with your girlfriend, your wife, etc., etc., and you're scoping out whatever. I think it would be good to recognise the role that men, as citizens, do play.
Right. Okay, well, good. I hope you get it for you.
Is there any opinion from yourself?
No, I think it's, like I say, International Men's Day. What would we do with it? Sit around and say, oh, look at us. When a drunk comes into a bar, we have to protect our little ladies. Sounds a bit patronising crap to me, but there you are.
I'm
How do... Good night. Don't be sorry. Be gone. How do, Alan?
Good morning. I know you stuck for time. All it is, I'm just reading it on the teletext. A Russian council has been put in charge of the UN Security Council.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware. Each of the councils have 15 members, takes up a presidency for each month on a rotating pattern. I just thought it was a bit of a strange one. Any inputs on it, do you think?
Well, it might seem strange, but it's laid down in the charter that every one of the members, every one of the member states, gets a spell at being...
1 o'clock. This is Tyler Dunn. The Foreign Office says it's working hard to get in touch with 3 British men who have been detained by the Taliban secret police in Afghanistan. 2 of the men are understood to have been arrested during a raid on accommodation used by foreign aid workers. Our correspondent Helena Wilkinson reports.
One of the British men has been named by the Presidium Network as Kevin Cornwell, a 53-year-old charity worker. A second British man was also detained with Mr. Cornwell. He has not been named. Both were taken into custody by the Taliban on January the 11th. No formal charges have been laid against the 2 men. A third British man is also being held by the Taliban. He's thought to be Miles Routledge, who's built up a social media following, visiting dangerous places.
Academy school bosses have told the BBC there needs to be a rethink about how the regulator Ofsted carries out its inspections. Around a dozen chief executives say the reviews often don't take into account the effect of the coronavirus pandemic. The concerns follow the death of a head teacher who took her own life while waiting for a report that downgraded her school. The chief executive of the Greenwood Academy Trust, Wayne Norrie, says poorer communities are among those feeling the pressure.
I think the fairness for some communities is not right at the moment. I think that there is an issue, particularly for disadvantaged communities and schools that serve disadvantaged communities, how fair their experience is when Ofsted are looking for things that are becoming increasingly challenging for any school to deliver.
Last week, Ofsted said it was a hard time to be a head teacher, but inspections were important. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is calling for Wayne Couzens, who murdered Sarah Everard, to be stripped of a pension he built up while working for the Civil Nuclear Constabulary. Couzens is in line to receive £7,000 a year from his time working for the force, which guards nuclear facilities. He's already lost the pension he accrued while working for the Metropolitan Police. Sport, and the British heavyweight boxer Anthony Joshua has returned to winning ways after 2 successive defeats with victory over the American Jermaine Franklin. Their clash at the O2 Arena in London went the full 12 rounds before the former world champion was named the winner by unanimous points decision. The BBC's boxing commentator Ronald McIntosh watched the fight.
Anthony Joshua, in his first contest with his new trainer Derek James, has produced a commanding victory, but we can't call it a dominant victory because he lost 1 round, maybe a couple of rounds. He wasn't in danger of losing the contest. Jermaine Franklin perhaps increased his stock, but Anthony Joshua, a comfortable winner on points.
Football, and there have been resounding victories for the 2 teams at the top of the Premier League. Arsenal remain 8 points clear following a 4-1 at home win to Leeds, and second place Manchester City secured a 4-1 victory over Liverpool. And that's all the latest BBC News. It's now coming up to 3 minutes past 1.